So you see the title Obarimasem, and we want to pull up a document showing where we get that information from. Now, so in the Akhan language, the term OBARIMA means man, but there are a couple of different ways that the term for man is spelled. And we make these connections so we can show the continuity of culture from ancient Khanid and Kemet, Egypt and Nubia, all the way to Akhan culture in West Afurakani, West Africa, into North America. So the term you will have seen for the cover of the book, Obarima, Afurakani Manhood. So Obarima means man, male, male person, and so forth. And you'll see it equals Obanin. And if you say Obanin ba, Obanima, Obanimba, that's pronounced at regular conversation speed as Obarima, Obarima. So that's really Obanin and ba. Now, when you see Obani, so the term Oba means child or offspring, be male or female. Oba. Obanin means a male, nin, offspring. So let me pull this up real quick so you can see a related document. We published a document a few years ago, Amansesew, Spiritual Anatomy, identical in Kemet and Akhan culture. And when you talk about the different aspects of the spiritual anatomy, the Ba, which is the spirit, the Ka, which is the soul, the Aku, the third eye, the intuition, and so forth, the Ab, which is the spiritual heart, Hati, the heart and lung complex, Sahu is the spirit body, Kahibit is the aura, the Sau, or Su is the essential nature and so forth, the spiritual essence. So those different aspects of the spiritual anatomy of the Afurakani human being, African Black human being, those terms and their cosmological foundations exist in the same cosmological context, as well as in the same names and titles in Akhan language. So we go through them in this article. And one of the first ones that we deal with is the Ba. So the term Ba in ancient Kemet is the spirit, the divine living energy. So you will see Ba here, and you'll see sometimes the birds, sometimes the bowl of burning incense with a little flame arising and the bird in front of it. That's the Ba, the divine living energy. That's the spirit. It's not the soul. The Ka is the soul, the divine consciousness. The Ba is the animate, which is the wing, the bird, fire, the bowl of burning incense. So it's the animate fire within you, the divine living energy within you, that solar fire energy, life force energy that comes directly from Ra and Ra'et, the creator and creatress. So Ba is the living animate force that gives you life, vitality, animation, and so forth. Ba for males, Ba'et for females. It's a divine force dwelling within you. So they misdefine it as soul God, but it's really the spirit force, male or female. In Akhan, you see the term Ba-Ra, which is Bara or Bra. It's the life, the existence, the term for life or existence and so forth. It's the same term with the added stem of Ra, but when you go to the Akhan language, you will see Oba is offspring, child, son, or daughter. Oba Banin is the Banin, the male Oba child, or Oba Berima, male child. Oba Bea is the female Obea, Oba offspring. So offspring is Oba, and then you have Oba, which is a woman, and then Obanin, which is a man. So, but the root, as you can see, for a child is Oba, a woman Oba or Obawa, and man Obanin. The root is Ba, that's the divine living energy, that's the divine living energy, that's the spirit. So, now to just go back. So, when you see Onini as a suffix, it's the male of animals. So, for example, the term Jata means lion in the Akhan language. Jata Nini is the male, Nini Jata, the male lion. Jata Bere is the female, Bere Jata, meaning lioness. So you have Jata Nini, Jata Bere, male lion, female lion or lioness. And then you have Jata Foro, which is the child, the cub, the lion cub. So Oba Nin is the man, the male spirit. Now, the reason why we show that variation of it, and of course we have Obarima, which is Obanin Ba. But when you look at Obanin, meaning male, when you look at in the language of ancient Kemet, you see the term, it's not Bennu, it's Banu or Baninu. That's the term for male and man. So the leg with the foot is the B sound, the wavy water line is the N sound, and then you have the vessel, which is the nu sound, NU, and this coiled rope and so forth is the U sound as well. So it's B, N, U. So they weren't sure if it was Banu or Bonu or Binu or Benu and so forth. In the hieroglyphic dictionary that was published by Budge 100 years ago, the convention at that particular time was if you didn't know what vowel placement was proper between two consonants, then they would automatically stick an E in between two consonants until they could figure out what the vowel placement would be. So that was an arbitrary insertion for any time they saw, a word with two consonants or more than two consonants and so forth. There were no vowels. They would stick an E in between until they could find out at some point what the proper vowel placement was. But it's really spelled B-N-U. In the dictionaries today, the Medutu, the hieroglyphic dictionaries today, they don't stick an E in between consonants. They would just spell it B-N-U and typically B-N-W, or the term nsoro, misnomer netter, they would spell it N-T-R. They wouldn't spell it N-E-T-E-R like neter. They would spell it N-T-R. In Akhan, of course, that is nsoro, which means deity, just like it means in ancient Kemet. But here it's really B-N-U. We know, as we can see in Akhan language, and the U is also a plural, so Ben is singular, Ben-Nu is plural and so forth, but it's not Ben-Nu, it's Ban-Nu or Bani-Nu and so forth. That means male or man. Same word, same function. Now, you'll also see Obarima, which is also Obanin Ba, Obanin. It means man, male, person, male. Third def also means valiant, man, hero, and so forth. But it also means yard, penis. Kote is another word for the male organ and so forth. Of course, the reproductive organs determine the difference between male and female. So that same term is identified by the male organ. And of course, the same word, Bennu, meaning male or man. Ben, reduplicated, means to copulate. And Ben, to copulate, to beget, to be begotten, virile, phallus. So that's not Ben or Benen, that's Banin, which means phallus, Banin, and it also means man. Just like in Akhan, Banin means man, and Banin, that third definition, is the male reproductive organ. So, same term, same meaning in both languages. And then we also have Obarimasem. Sem means issues or affairs, and Obarima, of course, means man. So the issues or affairs or the understanding, Asem, of man or men, Obarima. So Obarimasem, that's the term for manhood. It can also be Obarimasem. That's just another dialectical variant. Now, so as we said, we have two different books. We have OBARIMA, Afurakani Manhood, and that book is 7 chapters, each one governed by one of these 7 principal values of manhood, of Obarimasem, Afurakani Manhood. So we go through those in those 7 chapters. But before we get to that book, we have our book PTAH SASETEM. And the PTAH SASETEM book, we're going to go through that first. It also 7 chapters, 7 modules. We published the PTAH SASETEM as an educational curriculum for Afurakani youth, male and female, as well as adults. So we say created for adults who have Afurakani heritage to utilize in the education of themselves, their peers, and in the instruction of Afurakani children and young adults. So we have 7 principal values of PTAH SASETEM. Okradin, Africa, the value of identity. So we're going to get into that section tonight. Next week, we'll deal with Abatum, which is melanin, the value of physiology. The next week is Maranechi, divine law, love, and divine hate, the expansive and contractive poles of divine order. The expansive pole is divine law or love, and the expansive pole of divine order is divine hate. So we talk about the value of function as mission. In Yansapo, we have a decision-making process by which we arrive at decisions as men, because every decision you make, that determines the direction of your life. So the difference between adulthood and childhood is the kind of decision-making process that you engage. So we go into detail about that. Obirafo, ethical life, the value of good character. Asedie, responsibility, the value of expression, and Shebia, tools, the value of expression. So we say the principles and values of PTAH SASETEM, when you incorporate this educational curriculum, this set of principal values, and the books that we examine in each week associated with this, each value and so forth, we talk about how it's been used to positively reorient Afurakani children, young adults, and adults in individual as well as group prevention and intervention settings, classrooms, after-school programs. We started doing this with young people in Chicago a number of years ago, expanded, of course, to adults and so forth. Totally transforms the minds of our people when we become properly grounded, properly oriented in who we are, what our function in the world is, and how to execute that function and preserve that execution. So in the beginning, we just talk about the way the book is structured and so forth. But the reason why we call it PTAH SASETEM, Ptah, which is this divinity you see on the front cover. He's the great fashioner in creation. He's a spiritual force deep within the core, the inner core of Earth, constantly fashioning. When they talk about Ptah and his workshop and so forth, and he's deep within the core, fashioning the forms of plant life, animal life, mineral life, the suns, moons, stars, planets, and these various things. Ptah is the divine fashioner, the divine force in the inner core, and deep within you, he's within the brain and so forth, and bone marrow. That fire deep within the brain and bone marrow, fashioning thought forms and so forth, according to divine order. He's the divine fashioner. So let's show this real quick. We're going to go on Kumpon, in Yokonton, Ra, and Ra'et. And we were showing in this book that in the Akhan language and culture and cosmology, the deity in Yokonton is Ra, and in Yokonton is Ra'et, the creator and creatress. But the reason I'm showing this now is because we just wanted to show that in the temple of Apet Reset, which is so-called Luxor and so forth, this is a relief from that temple. This is Amen, sometimes called Amen-Ra, the great god. This is Amenet, the great goddess, the great mother. And Amen and Amenet work together as the great divine being, the supreme being. Two halves of a whole, just like your mother and father work together as one unit to bring you into the world. Amen and Amenet are the great father and great mother who work together as two halves of a divine whole that we can call the supreme being to bring creation into being. They are the great being. Their body is the creation, is their body, within their body and so forth. The divine living energy that surges through creation, surges through the body of Amen and Amenet. Is Ra and Ra'at, the divine living energy, the great spirit of the supreme being. So just like you as an Afurakani man, you're a great being, you're an emanation of Amen, you're a microcosm of Amen and so forth. Within your body, there's solar energy surging through you. You can direct your energy to your hands, you can direct it to your feet, you can engage in martial arts and direct that solar energy or Kai energy, Chi energy and so forth to different parts of the body and so forth. That is your Ra force. For an Afurakani woman, that is her Ra'et force that comes directly from Ra'et. Your Ra force, that solar energy force, comes directly from Ra and so forth, or Nyokumpong. So the great being, Amen, directs Ra to go out and create. The great being, Amenet, directs Ra'et to go out and create. So the creator and creatress, as we will show as throughout this course, are the grandchildren of the supreme being. And that's always been the case. So some people talk about Amen, they'll talk about Ra and Ptah, so they're all one divinity. Totally false. Amen is the great being. Actually, Nu and Nut are the mother and father of Ra, and Nu and Nut are the children of Amen and Amenet. So Ra and Ra'at are grandchildren of Amen and Amenet. For example, you see Amen and Amenet here, Ka and Ka'et, or Kaka and Kakaet, Hehu and Hehud, and Nun and Anet. And Nun and Anet are the mother and father of Ra and Ra'at. So Amen and Amenet give birth to these 6 divinities. Together they're called the Agdawad, or the sacred 8 divinities of Kemenu or Hermopolis and so forth, and Ta'apet of Thebes. And then Nun and Anet give birth to Ra and Ra'at. So that's in the cosmology, it's in the text, it's always been there. But when we have the mindset, when we're coming from Christianity or Islam or Judaism and so forth, and then we kind of leave that alone, but then we come and we become excited about our traditions, we still have the same mindset. So we'll go and look for, well, who is the quote unquote supreme being? And they'll say, well, Amen is the supreme being. And they'll say, oh, okay. And they don't even think, well, what about Amenet? Or if you see this image, you'll see people visit Kemet, they'll have tours to Kemet, they'll go show some of the pylons and so forth. As a matter of fact, just to give you a quick, let me show this on our page. Hold on one second. So this is the our page where we have a trip.
Yes, yes, I saw that.
Took people to Kemet, and we have some videos. So, for example, and when you see people go to Kemet and they visit Kemet and so forth, you'll see them, going to the temple of Apet Asetew, which is so-called Karnak. Now, this is one of the pylons. So you see people standing from the pylons, they take pictures and so forth. And when you walk around, you'll see these different images. So this is one of them. You'll see people stand up under the pylon, they'll point and they'll show that this is Amen. They'll take a picture of him. They'll say Amen is the great divinity. This sanctuary is the temple of Amen and so forth. Largest religious sanctuary in the world, number of different reliefs and so forth. But what precludes somebody from looking at that, showing that's Amen, showing those are his 2 tall feathers? Why don't you look and see who that is? Why don't you just take the picture of him and then walk to the next pylon? That's Amenet, the great mother, And her name is right there in the Medutu, right by her head and so forth, and that's Amen. And there are multiple pylons in the, you know, anybody who walks in there, if they just look up and see, they will see her standing right next to him. They'll see her sitting next to him. So some people may see her crown and assume that's neat because she wears the same kind of red crown and so forth. But some people simply will focus on Amen and keep going. That's because we've been conditioned to inferiorize the woman because that's not important. And even the notion of goddess, that's not important, except they talk about Aset and Ma'at maybe, and Heteru, but outside in the work that we put out, we always show that balance. And then when we engage the ritual process, of course, we, you know, operationalize that ritually. So, but yeah, so, and I just showed that, we just showed that so that Amen, Amenet, Ra, and Ra'at, the divine living energy, but that divine living energy that animates all things and so forth, all created entities, within the core of Earth, you have this divinity PTAH. And he takes the divine living energy that gives life to things and fashions it and forms it into different forms: planets, suns, moons, stars, oceans, rivers, the forms of mountains and so forth, the thermodynamic forces in the core, inner core of Earth, constantly shaping the planet and so forth. That is PTAH in his workshop. This is another image of PTAH.